Happy New Year.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to the PRNC. I hope everybody had a great season and some adventures and got all the gifts they wanted, or better still, got none because most of us don't need much. Um, it's been quite a while since we met. The last time I saw most of you, we were jerry rigging um, our meeting slash live meeting slash holiday party at the ballroom. We had about 70 people at the ballroom, and some people left their computers and went to the ballroom for the party. Some people joined Edie in the ballroom where we had a makeshift um, hybrid meeting. I think it was really good. There was lots of food and there was some dancing, and we gave away some prizes. And I think that was a great end to our, hi, Jeff, a great ending to the year of activities that we had. And we sent out the newsletter. I'm sure you all received that beautiful invitation in the mail about 2 days after the party. So I sent it out on time with plenty of time, but the postal service is not the most efficient at that time of the year. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Um, we sent out the minutes of the December 3rd meeting. Does anybody have any changes to those that they would like to mention? We didn't see anything. I will mention again those minutes. Thank you, Anna, that those minutes are in a new format now. And basically, they're the transcripts of the Zoom meetings. And then Anna just does a timestamp. So it's very, very easy not to get an interpretation, but to get an outline. And then you can go exactly to that place in the meeting. So that's working great. It saves her hours, and it seems to be unanimous that it's a much better way to take the minutes. So we'll stick with that. So I will go ahead and uh, uh,
Motion to
move,
accept the meeting.
move to start the meeting.
A motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
Move to accept the minutes of the meeting.
Second,
Okay, and here we go. Do we have, I don't think it's Officer Ignat. Do we have police with us, RPD today?
we have
Okay.
Fire Chief Osario here, but I don't think that he's here as a representative of the police. I
Hi,
would
Chief.
venture to guess that.
And I'm really glad you're here because I know you're here, I'm assuming you're here to talk about bike lanes, but we have a specific question about evacuation routes that I've been trying to pin down. So maybe you'll be able, when that time comes, maybe you'll be able to answer that. Um, uh, Chief, do you intend to stay through the bike lane presentation? Are you here for that?
Yes, that's why I'm attending.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not here to report out for RPD.
Okay, but I will. I am going to ask you a question about the Knox box locks, Knox box locks on East Richmond. So just to put that idea in your head, because we're hoping that, and I'll explain to the rest of the community if you're unaware what we're waiting on for that. So I've got a couple things to cover. I'll try to make it really brief because we do have all big city brass on. Um, we got an announcement from Public Works. Darcy, who deals pretty much with landscaping and hardscaping in the city, she is absolutely brilliant. She has announced that the construction activities around the pump station should pick up February 9th and 10th at the Ferry Point pump station. Some of you may recall, we just sent a social media post out on it that there was some surprise, surprise copper wire theft that slowed down that landscaping, and also the incredible rain. It didn't make any sense to do any kind of planting there, but I do know that the soil is down. Um, and the boulder placement is also supposed to be in place. So we got response from Beverly and also from Jonathan Livingston thanking Public Works and Darcy for that. So those boulders that are going to hopefully keep cars from going behind that pump station are on their way. Darcy has really been keeping an eye on this, and I know it's been frustrating for those residents, but I'm grateful for that. Dumpster Day comes earlier every year, folks. So the first one, and we have had two at my request over the last 2 years. Dumpster Day is Saturday, February 28th. It's super early this year. That's Saturday, the 28th. Same routine as always, 8 o'clock till noon. Line up on cutting and make a right-hand turn in front of the elementary school. We are super organized. So we'll be sending out a postcard, and the city will send out a postcard, and we'll send out notification. But we would like to ask, because we might or might not have a meeting before then. Yeah, I think we will have, is think about getting together with your neighbors. Don't just load stuff into your truck and come, particularly if you have a senior neighbor or somebody needs a little help. Find out if anybody has like an old dresser they need you to bring along. And also, it's a good idea if you see somebody left an old chair out somewhere, pick it up on your way. A lot of us will do a run around the neighborhood. I borrow Edie's truck. Thank you, Edie. She's got a big truck, and I just do a run around the neighborhood. Takes me 15 minutes and toss in whatever anyone has left. So put that on your calendar, mind you. Uh, People are asking what's going to happen this year, and I'll put it in a newsletter. We are going to do the spring fling. At this point, we are not going to do it on Park Place. We want to bring our community events back to the smaller and more intimate community events that they used to be. So we are looking at partnering with PRAM to hold the spring fling, which is basically a children's event, and the fancy hat party at the Pram Clubhouse, with the PRNC sponsoring them financially and the PRNC helping with the games and the Easter egg hunts. It will allow us to do something a little faster and a little more intimate. For those of you who were at Spring Fling last year, it was a huge success, but it was people from all over the Bay Area. And basically the 4 board members that were available to work on it really can't throw a street party for 1,000 people. So I'll give you more notice on that. And then Women's West Side has requested, and we agree that we look at some type of spring, summer, or fall, or maybe 2 of those gardening events again, because that was great fun for everybody, quick and easy. And now that so much of the gardening work has been done, on a more permanent basis, we're hoping to that it will be easier to maintain the town triangle. Our commitment, with help from the Gateway Foundation, is we're going to continue to work on the corner of Judge Carroll Park to try to make that a little bit better. It's pretty, but it needs extra work. It needs some stone borders. The mulch is all over the place, and we do have money for that. And then we will tie in, hopefully around Mother's Day, with some type of celebration of our beloved crossing guard, Miss Maxine, who never seems to retire. And we're hoping to do kind of a Mother's Day celebration, something with cupcakes for the kids or something. We haven't figured it out yet, but we'll have the cooperation of PTA and PRAM on that. We've got money in the bank, so we can reach out and do some events and, kind of sponsor some events within the community. If your community organization wants a little help, go ahead and ask. And we'll see if we can work together. That worked best last year when we piggybacked with the other community organizations. Next month, we are scheduled to have the city manager. Originally, she was going to be here this month, and bike lanes were going to be a big part of the discussion. So hopefully we will be on our way with that. I will send out an email pretty soon requesting that anyone who has a question for the city manager forward it to me so that I can get it to her, and hopefully she can get a concise answer. We had tried a couple years ago when she came to have like this giant free-for-all. The meeting went on for hours. It was way too much stuff. I was new at this. And so now I realize it's best if we give her a heads up. That way she doesn't have to invite every single department head at once, and those meetings go on and on. So she's a VIP and she's super busy as well. So I just want to try to be as concise as possible with her. And then in March, we hope to have the watershed project to discuss sea level rise. And they are speaking both as an organization and also kind of doing some outreach on behalf of the city. So we've invited them to join us. Everything's subject to change, of course, but I look forward to it. And do we have police with us yet? Okay, as always, what we'll do is we'll move on with the meeting. If the police do show up, we'll stop what we're doing, give them a chance to report so they can get back to their policing and get back and then go back to the meeting again. Margie, do you have anything for us? You're muted.
No, I have nothing else. I look forward to supporting the community with our hard-earned money.
Great. We do have a good treasury right now, and Margie and I are still working on getting the bookkeeper. It just fell through the cracks with all the activities we were doing at the end of the year. But we do want to hire a relatively inexpensive bookkeeper to help us with that. Eric, is there any news on the what we say VOG, the voice of God? We can hear him but not see him.
Yeah. Apologies, new computer. Can't figure out the camera here. Good evening. Happy New Year. We have two new members, two new households this month. So welcome if you're joining this evening. So we're up to 206 paid active members total. We're still seeing folks renew their memberships and paying dues, which we really, really appreciate. If you have any questions about membership, please shoot us an email and we can answer all your questions. So thank you.
Thank you. And we do have some volunteers who are offering to help us review our website. We know that paying dues on the website is a little bit of a free for all. Some people pay. Most of the people are actually paying using PayPal now because it's easiest, and then they get notices to please pay again. So we know that it's messed up. We just don't really have the tech knowledge to figure out why, but we do have a volunteer who has offered to help us sort through that a little bit. So we can move on. We're running really early because of the lack of police folks. So I want to introduce, we have a lot of people from the city. I see that the Public Works Director is here. Hillel Hamden seems to be the sort of point person now for bike lanes. And we do have Fire Chief Osorio here. But the technically the guest speaker for today is Jesse Moran from our neighbors CSW. Hi, Jesse. Happy New Year. And the main point of this meeting was to discuss the outreach on the new part of the bike lanes. But just to fill you in, if you haven't been following the city council agenda, did they vote for that money yesterday or was it put aside?
Yes, they did.
Okay. So was it an agenda item?
Yes.
Okay, so there's some, maybe a big chunk, not as much as we like, but a pretty big chunk of money that came through. So this meeting is moving in a little bit of a different direction because we certainly determined that we can't really talk to Jesse and Robert Stevens from CSW until, things are changing like as we speak. So it's really important, and that's what I'm going to ask you and Hillel, Jesse, to do, is to help us to sort through what is happening with changes. So we're talking about the cutting in Girard Place as it exists, and then clarify your outreach on the new portion through Old Point Richmond, and also what you've actually been contracted by the city to do. Because originally you weren't really speaking on what was existing, although your company has strong opinions about it that have been useful for all, for both the bike path folks and folks who are concerned about the evacuation routes. So
Philip, I think we have a PowerPoint and we'll walk you through it.
Okay, who wants to start? Should we start with Hillel?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll start.
All right, go for it.
So, yes, good evening, everyone. I hope you've seen me already before. I'm pretty much vested for the Point Richmond community. I got Keller Beach. I'm managing it. I'm sure you've seen me, some of you. I'm managing the cut-through traffic also that's coming. Another consultant will take the lead. I'm managing right now the Richmond connectivity project till Jenny, she'll be on board. She's coming sometimes the end of February from maternity leave. and then the minor modification on the bike lanes in Point Richmond. So a lot of things going on. I brought my whole team here with me. I got my Public Works Director, Daniel Chavarria. I got Chief Onsario, the Fire Chief, Aaron. I got Richard Diaz is here. The Emergency Manager is here. And of course, the team, the design team, the CSW team, leading by Robert Stevens and Jesse Moran here. So we came ready for you guys. The first topics I want to talk, we're gonna, we send you the Q&A to Philip. I hope you received it. If there's any comments or any of those issues that you want to bring it, it's the time. The second topic is, talking about the bike modification. The city council voted out 125K yesterday to address some of your concern on this bike circulation. And Robert Stevens is going to talk about it, and Jesse as well. And the third topic that Jesse, she will talk about the new project, that bicycle pedestrian connectivity project. Hope she will have enough time to talk about it, and she'll talk about the outreach as well. So I will, leave it to you, Philip, if you have any questions or anything that you want to bring it up on the Q&A that we sent you, and any response, any feedback, we're here to answer you. Anything.
There are a couple things that are still unclear about that. You tell me when you want me to discuss them.
Okay, I will I'll pass it on to Robert and Jesse. Let them walk through the PowerPoint, and then we'll have that back and forth Q&A. Yep.
Yeah, so Halal, I think that's a great idea that we do a little bit of a back and forth. Can everyone see the screen that I'm sharing? I felt like this slide here is maybe a little bit helpful to kind of guide us this evening. As Halal mentioned, by the way, I'm Jessie Marin with CSW. I think I'm well labeled on my picture, and I've been introduced by both Philip and Halal, and I'm here with Robert Stevens, also from CSW, and I am a facilitator by heart. So I really enjoy conversations like this, and I think it's a really kind of a fantastic opportunity for all of us to come together and talk about stuff that sometimes has some friction or some conflict in it. And my approach is always to try to understand kind of the structure of our concerns, and then be fairly methodical in kind of unraveling that, so we can get clarity around questions, and we, can build some confidence and some trust with each other as we are gaining understanding. So the reason for the slide that's up right now is to say, as we've talked about, there are kind of three topics, and they're all interwoven together. There's this idea of the ongoing questions that the PRNC community has brought forward through Philip, and those are the Q&A that Halal was referencing. Out of that and other conversations that you've brought forward, there's been some concerns that the community has identified about existing bike routes on Cutting and along the Plunge. And there was a resolution adopted by council last night as part of the consent calendar that dedicated some funds to some improvements that respond to those concerns. And so the first part of our presentation will be Robert Stevens kind of talking through the improvements or the modifications that were within that package that was approved last night. And then we really would like to have a little bit of time for me to introduce just a bit about the scope, but mostly about the approach to engagement for that downtown Point Richmond connectivity project. So that's the new work going forward. So does that sound like a good plan? Does that feel comfortable? If it does, I'll go. Okay, great. So I'm going to call on Robert Stevens first. Let's make sure I've got all my ability to move our slides forward. As we talked about, there were $125,000 approved at City Council to relate to circulation modifications. So it's primarily on West Cutting Boulevard, but as you'll see, as we go through the next few slides, there are also some improvements proposed along the plunge path. If you see the council package, there's a detailed letter in there. There are drawings in there that identify this in more detail. But we just wanted to step through these with you tonight so that everyone is kind of getting a shared understanding and we're all hearing this together. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Robert to just kind of walk us through each of these. And Robert, give me the heads up when you want me to move forward to the next slide. We have about 11 slides to get through in this section.
Thank you, Jesse, and thank you for having us here this evening to discuss this. By the way, our firm moved over to Railroad Avenue, so we're in the old railroad building. So come visit us. We spent all Christmas break working on that move, so come visit us. So the Cutting Boulevard and associated bicycle path has been in place for a couple of years now, and we've had the opportunity to observe it in operation, and hearing feedback from folks throughout the city as well as in Point Richmond and my own observations. There's some things we'd like to tackle and modify to make it work better. And so I had the chance to work with Halal and Daniel from the city to think about some additional concepts, and these are some of the highlights of the things that I think we should consider modifying. And I'd love to get some feedback from everybody here. And, it doesn't have to be tonight. We can talk about it over the next couple of weeks, but we'd like to go and tackle some of these challenges. So the first one relates to how at the intersection of Cutting Boulevard and Girard, the existing westbound turn movement is confusing. So we'd like to modify it so that the left lane in the westbound direction has a through into the parking lot and a left lane. And that right lane is now going to be a dedicated right lane. And you can see how the cycle track is modified. The cycle track actually gets a bit narrower. This is to encourage cyclists for not riding in the wrong direction on it, which we see pretty frequently out there. The only challenge to this, of course, is typically you do not put a right turn lane on a bicycle lane. So we need to have some additional signage there to ensure that motorists are properly yielding to cyclists as they make that westbound movement. I believe that this whole configuration here is going to be something that's studied in depth, as Jesse's going to talk about with the Point Richmond Neighborhood Connectivity Plan. This is an interim idea to kind of solve the challenge that some folks are seeing today. Next slide, please. So this is on Cutting Boulevard at Wine Street in front of the school here. You can see the railroad tracks crossing right there. Again, here we're proposing to narrow the bicycle lane. And to allow not only to allow the U-turns to occur as they did in the past, but also two vehicles could come next to each other. One vehicle, if it was staged waiting for a train, another vehicle could make a turn onto Wine Street. We know this isn't the perfect solution, but this does provide some benefits, and this is another thing we'll be looking at more in depth with the
Robert,
study.
do you have the ability to put a cursor on this to show that action?
I think Jesse could do that.
Jesse, just to clarify the actions that that Robert's talking about, if it's something you can do.
So
I think
Robert, correct
yeah,
me
there you
if
go.
I'm misinterpreting. So here is where sort of the narrowing or the neck down is happening. Unfortunately, my cursor is green.
Mhm.
Let's try a red. And that creates a wider space here.
Mhm.
So if you have a
Correct.
vehicle in this travel lane, which is not drawn to scale, there is an opportunity for a vehicle to pull into this space and be able to make that turn.
A vehicle, if so there's two movements possible here. One, the U-turn is re-allowed in this location. And the other one is if a vehicle is staged close enough to the median, there'll be enough room for another vehicle to pull up alongside of it so it can make the right turn movement onto
Right.
Wine Street.
Great, Robert. This was, as you know, personally my pet peeve and the pet peeve of many people, because we weren't able to escape the trains. The other challenge we have is that on the west side of the road, the smaller bike lane, still disallowed that U-turn even when people were doing it illegally because of the pylons. So that's something that I would remind you to look at, please. So even though you remove the sign, people still need to be able to do the U-turn without potentially hitting a biker.
Yep. And Philip, that's a really good point.
Is
So I
this-
did a couple sample turns in my car a
Mhm.
couple months ago. It seemed fine to me, but I'd love to meet with some folks out there and maybe we can tweak this a little bit to make it better for everyone.
Sure. Such a simple solution to a challenging problem. Thank you, Robert.
Next slide, please. Okay, so this is one observation that I think a lot of us have made where folks are riding down the wrong side of the cycle track in the opposing direction. So this is an idea that Fair and Peers had developed where we're going to neck down the cycle tracks so that they don't seem as friendly for cyclists to ride in the wrong way direction. So this is a pretty minor modification by necking it down and just creating that visual cue that it's really a one-way direction. And the comment that James made, I think that that's a great concept, and I think that would be a wonderful thing to think about when we talk about the Point Richmond Neighborhood Connectivity Plan.
Great. And James, just to let you know, that was actually something Robert Stevens had said, the possibility of adjusting or removing all or some of that median strip.
I don't know
So
if everyone can
something,
see it. We're referring to the comment in the chat asking if there's any consideration for removing the center median, which was installed several decades ago.
Right. And so we're talking about just near-term things we can accomplish in the next several months just to make things a little more functional right now, is all we're talking about. So we've heard that Second Street is a bit of a challenge to how you turn right here. I understand that, you know, there's no dedicated right turn lane here, but this functions like any street that would have, you know, on-street parking and a shared through and right turn lane. What we do notice is that the vegetation is a little challenging if I'm trying to pull out of Second Street and I'm looking to my left. If I'm looking east, I can't see very well. So Halal's crews are going to go out there and do some trimming, limbing up of things to make sure we have really good sight distance. So this is another thing I'd like to maybe meet out there with a select group of people to kind of talk about what the challenge is there to see if there's something more we can do at this location. Next slide, please.
Oh, one moment. There we go.
Okay, so this is a big one. So this is Cutting Boulevard, right at the at 4th Street. This is the the entrance to our friends the Sims Recycling Facility. And you see to your right or to the east, there is no cycle track heading in the westbound direction. And we couldn't fit it in there because we needed the 2 travel lanes to maintain at that location. Also, the railroad would like to see some additional intersection enhancements at this location here. So Hilal and I met with the railroad and the CPUC, and we tossed out some ideas here. So there's a little bit more work that has to go on here to kind of improve this for everybody, for vehicles, for cyclists, for pedestrians. I think we all know that the bump at that railroad crossing is really horrendous. So there's a whole host of things that have to go on here. They're not going to be simple. They're not going to be inexpensive. But I know Hilal and his team are ready to attack that one next. Okay, so I know it's funny when the West Cutting project was built, they weren't conditioned with making modifications at those locations. We don't know why they weren't, but they just weren't. So we're going to go ahead and fix those things to make sure that they operate as they're supposed to. Next slide. Okay, so there was, we know that trucks are parking in the 2-way left turn lane on Cutting to make deliveries. And that's not allowed. The California Vehicle Code does not allow that. unless our council has authorized that as a loading zone. So we don't believe at this time that that needs to be a loading zone. So the city's parking enforcement are going to review conditions and work with the truckers to make sure that they stage on private property to move forward. So this is another thing, it's an operational thing we're going to have to look at.
I want to mention, I think Lisa Johnson might have some institutional memory on this. This was a dangerous area for the bike lanes, with the trucks pulling. I'm just vaguely remembering that the trucks pulling in and out were dangerous for the bikes. And my understanding is it might be why they started parking in the middle of the street.
No.
No, am I misremembering, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were like three issues. One was what Robert talked about, which trucks like UPS and FedEx in particular, they were parking in the middle lane, the turn lane, and then they would deliver to businesses on the south side of Cutting. And they were told not to be doing that. So then they were pulling up actually in the bike lane because they also didn't feel safe running their deliveries across a traffic lane and then into the stores. So then they started pulling in the bike lane, which was also not allowed to do that. Then there were cars, and I don't know if you've seen this, Robert, or not, but cars were actually driving down the turn lane as though it was a vehicular driving lane.
Yes.
And then
yes.
the third issue was two bicyclists got hit. And I know somebody who has pictures of at least one of them. And that was because they were driving in the bike lane and people were exiting the businesses, especially like near Channel Lumber. They were exiting, trying to turn left or right, but particularly left. They couldn't see because the cars were parking. There were some cars parked and they were having to go so far out into the lane that they were impeding even the bike lane. And at one point, a guy in a truck hit a bicyclist right there, trying to get out of, I believe it was Channel Lumber's parking lot at that point. And they were trying to turn left onto Cutting when that happened. And it was through sight, they were having sightline issues trying to see because something was too tall that was parked there and they just couldn't see. And then the bicyclist like ran into them. I'm not really sure what happened, but.
Yeah, so I've looked at the sight lines from those exits, and if a UPS or somebody's parked in the bike lane, it's going to cause a real problem.
Yeah.
The bike lanes are now going to be narrower, and there's going to be a bollard in front of them, so vehicles won't be able to get in there anymore. But I think we need to really work with our city's parking enforcement just to make sure that people are not doing funky things there, because the deliveries is really not a good idea, because that does cause sight distance challenges for all movements along that corridor.
Maybe
So we
we
need to
can
stay on top of that.
maybe we can take a look, maybe red curve some of those areas.
Did you guys, Hilal, did you guys meet with the people at Channel Lumber?
No.
They're good people to talk to. And then there's like another maritime business right beside them, and they all can give you their feedback. So I would, those two kind of main businesses right there, they're really, really good to go and talk to. And they can tell you all the things they've seen.
Would do.
And some of them, not at Channel Lumber, but the adjacent business, one of them, I think she works at like the front desk. You'll find her. She bikes actually to work. So.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be really important, Lisa, because as part of, and Jesse's going to talk about this, it's going to be actually meeting with these businesses in this area to actually kind of get a feedback about how things are going.
Yeah, they're desperate for help. So.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I understand it, we're having some right-of-way allocation issues with our Bay Trail that runs along the plunge, with cyclists that might be not respecting pedestrians right of way. So what I'd like to do, and you all can comment on this, it's I think we need to remind people that, this is a two-way stretch of road, right? Stretch of trail, right? Kind of don't want to have to put a center line down the whole big sidewalk because I think the center line would look ugly. But I think some signs to reinforce, cyclists yielding to pedestrians and a little bit more of a reminder that, there is a center line here. We have to be respectful of folks. I'd like to try this just to make sure and see if it works. But this is another thing where we're going to have to monitor it. Some education to our community might be useful here. This is another one of those tricky things about how do we share a public space. So this is my idea. I've done this on the Ohlone Greenway in El Cerrito. It seemed to work well at the El Cerrito station, but we'll have to see how it works here.
Robert, we can always look back, but I think a handful of us have the institutional knowledge just to remember. I know that I was real clear on it. The PRNC actually had a meeting that was almost entirely about the signage, about the shared pathway, and the lack of urgency for that signage. It was very polite and an educational sort of note, but a lot of people were concerned that no bicyclist is going to just stop and read a public service announcement. A criticism from the bike community for even bringing that up. But one of the things, as you're pointing out, is nobody knows what to do. So, pedestrians don't know if you want us to stay on the building side. And then people like parents with baby carriages said they were afraid to walk on the plunge side because the mothers were concerned that somebody would jump out. So concerns for women, and particularly women with children, were different from, they had different views and different ways of viewing the world. Then there were concerns for the bicyclists because there's some trees running along the sidewalk at the road. So I think that Gary Hurlbut helped us. I know I personally cut 13 of them to try to trim those trees back so that the bicyclists wouldn't get hit in the face. And then there was some wondering as whether or not it was reasonable or possible to ask people to walk their bikes, not necessarily that they're going to do it, but some might. So that's just some feedback. Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, if you would say, I do a lot of work there, obviously, because we do a lot of work on the plunge. It is very difficult because bicyclists come out of the tunnel and all of a sudden they're in a place where they have the downward slope, and they really do haul down there. There's no easy solution. I do not try to make sure we just finished the winter pruning there to try to keep the trees all the way back to the sidewalk. There's nothing near the sidewalk. It is difficult though, because bicycles come out and really running down very fast, coming down that. And the signage, I don't think is going to do it. It's difficult. I'm not sure what the best answer is.
Yeah, during the time when we were installing that education, that signage, which by the way, Jesse Marin designed, the tunnel mural signage, we were constantly almost getting killed because we were standing there a lot and installing that thing. Peter, who is a bicyclist and has been at all these meetings.
Yeah, regarding the tunnel, the entrance into the tunnel itself for a bicycle, or in my case a trike, you have to be on the sidewalk. There's no transition. There's no bike lane in the tunnel itself except for that walkway, so you're sharing that. So coming out of the tunnel, the bikes are going to be on the sidewalk. The only way to slow them down is to either put rumble strips on there, or maybe put some stencils on the sidewalk and some lines denoting that one side is preferentially for bicycles and the other side is for pedestrians.
This is Gary again. You really could put a line in the sidewalk down the middle, and have say bikes are on the right, coming out of the tunnel, or on the right side, as much as you can do on the right side, and the pedestrians are more on the left. Maybe I got it backwards. Yeah, on the left side, but that's a challenge. But maybe something like that would help a little bit with cyclists coming out, staying on at least one side of the sidewalk.
So
Thanks,
gang,
Pete.
we're adding some regulatory signage here. People must follow the rules. If they don't follow the rules, right, they can receive a citation for it. So my suggestion is let's start with something, let's monitor it, and let's just keep pivoting as we need to.
And Robert, thanks, Peter. Robert, I thought I heard you mention that you might build a ramp to give bicyclists an option of driving on the street as opposed to going over that walkway. Did I hear you correctly?
Oh, yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that we can do right there. I think that's more of a permanent type of improvement. So I'm looking forward to, talking with everybody about what investment we should make here. We're looking at just a short-term trial to see if we can do something to enforce better right-of-way management here.
And I have a text. I just want to throw this text out. Some people are very shy. And this person has been saying this for years. One of the challenges we have is when Public Works says what we need to do is rely on parking enforcement or citations, which would be the police, right? So the comment is, we know that in the city of Richmond, we don't have sufficient police or parking enforcement, and consequently engineering becomes substantially more important. So, and that's something that's frustrated all of us when we've had all kinds of problems with homelessness or this or that, and someone says, well, the police have to handle it. So I wanted to be respectful of this neighbor.
Yep, I think that's a really good point. Okay, can we go to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay, so this similar to, I think, the Second Street concern, this is a little more complex because we have a train. When the train, of course, crosses canal, the lights flash red. So because we're sharing a through and a right turn lane, if there's a bunch of vehicles that want to make a right turn and the canal is all queued up, people could be staging back on cutting, blocking the eastbound movement. Fortunately, there's not a lot of folks that are making that movement, but I understand how that can potentially be an issue there. That one doesn't have a really simple and easy solution, but as part of our evaluation, I'm going to put a camera out there. I'm going to see what movements are happening and what the congestion is, because there's a series of things we can do with that traffic signal to eliminate that problem. So that's going to take a little more study, because again, creating a dedicated right turn lane across a cycle track is usually not a best practice. And there's a lot of folks riding here, and we just need to take account of what's actually happening and how big of an issue it is.
Peter, is this the same question or a new one?
Well, I have a couple questions or comments. I'm curious, do you guys designing these things? Are you guys bicycle riders? And have you ridden in the Point?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. Going down cutting, that's fine. I think accidents happen. People are going to do stupid things and somebody's going to get hit. That seems normal. I actually like going up Canal Street. I do that quite often, right out to Rigger's Loft and back. Actually, for me, the most challenging piece is right where that train track goes across, mostly because the sidewalk pavement area is really bad. The train track itself is old and uneven. Luckily, with a recumbent trike, that really doesn't bother me. I can ride over anything, but for a bicycle, that's torture. The other thing, though, going through the Point itself seems very confusing on any kind of, because you don't know whether you're supposed to be on the sidewalk or in the street. And if you're in the street, there are areas where you're driving along parallel parked cars, which is not a problem. And then there are other areas where the cars you're riding along the back of the cars, and I've actually been almost run over by a car just starting to back up. So I think the most important thing is to just try to be consistent with all this stuff.
Peter, you're going to be really excited for the next segment then.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
We're not going to answer that question in all of its entirety, but as Robert is alluding to, the confusion and the inconsistency that you're talking about is a reflection of a gap that exists in the system. And the blue text here, the Downtown Point Richmond Connectivity Project, right, really is all about talking about that gap that goes through downtown Point Richmond. So these next couple of slides, Robert, I would love for you to kind of speak to the issues and the concerns, but they're really leading us into that conversation about what this upcoming project can do, and how we can begin to identify all of those specific concerns around that gap.
Should we real quick grab a question from Lisa? And I also just kind of want to throw in, Peter, that Rich City Rides and Track are involved in almost every conversation that includes bike lanes. So advocates for the bikes are well heard in this community. Lisa?
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys, Jesse and Robert, if you're going to discuss, you have the cutting and canal. Are you going to discuss the westbound right turn lane? I know you had a previous slide where you were showing the distributors right on the north side, the Home Depot and the other one, and they didn't really have a right turn lane anymore. How's that getting addressed when you're going westbound on cutting and turning right onto Canal?
So Lisa, that's the problem. Like when you have when you have a bicycle lane, you cannot have a right turn lane to the left of a bicycle lane. So it's supposed to be a shared movement. And I know what's happening right now. People are cutting into that crosshatched area and doing it anyways.
Yeah.
So in the interim improvement, it's about making that movement impossible. So if you are heading westbound and you are going to make a right turn lane, you have to wait for the light to turn green. You won't be able to scoot into that little striped area right there to prevent that movement that people are doing right now, because they are potentially going to hit a cyclist there.
Yeah.
And that's been specifically the problem that we've discussed, particularly with the new, just further down the road, back to where we started. If you're on cutting and you wanted to make a right-hand turn onto Girard, or to escape trains, to be able, that's another evacuation route that has been removed due to gridlock. And I'll walk it with you, Robert. I have video of it. Yeah.
What I'm proposing to do here is we'll put some plastic delineators up. We're going to see how it works. We're going to see if people respect it or not, and we'll tweak it as needed.
All right. And then there's one thing, I'm looking at the picture right now, and I know when that building was getting designed, I had made a comment at DRB, and I know Jonathan, he was the chair at the time and he supported it. So the southbound lanes on Canal at the cutting and Canal intersection, it now looks like you guys repainted the arrows. So now you have a left lane, a straight lane, and a right lane. Is that correct? In the southbound direction, north of the intersection. So just right there. Yeah. So the problem was before they designed that building was there was 2 left turn lanes. The middle lane was also a straight and a turn, and people would queue up to turn left, and it was so not necessary. And then people would just sit there in the middle lane and not be able to go forward. And so I had proposed to convert that to straight. So now that's been done. It's been repainted. Is that what it looks like?
I mean, it's no longer, the signal doesn't even, it operates completely differently now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, gang, there's always, right, the best thing about this is we can always tweak and modify to make it meet our things as we go forward. Okay, so next slide, please, Jesse. Okay, so the plunge. We hear that this bulb out is too large. Again, I don't have a problem making that turn. I made that turn 3 times yesterday. It works fine for me. I think maybe there could be some additional delineation that's there. Maybe we could expand the concrete on there. But I'm still at a loss about what the challenge is here. So I think we're going to look at it as part of the downtown point connectivity project, but I'm still at a loss.
But I can feel that. The challenge is if you watch it, if you're doing it, you are deliberately aware of how far you're going and how close you are going. Come have a cup of coffee with me, Robert, and we'll watch it. The cars veer out where that white car is faced, and they are forced into the oncoming lane. So it's just a little too. I think the suggestion was that bulb outs are the best thing in the world because it's great for pedestrians and it slows down traffic. But if they're too big, what's happening is cars are stopping where the crosswalk is, and then all of a sudden this white car is making a right, and it finds itself facing.
Well, how about this? How about this as part of some of the striping? How about if we refresh some of the striping there and add some bollards on the center just to see if
you're the boss. That's your area of expertise. But I will mention, and I'm glad Daniel is here. He's been super good. We have those slow, I don't know what they're called. We've got these signs that sit in the middle of the crosswalk, slow crossing, such and such.
Yeah, the warning devices.
Yeah. Right. They're replacing them like they're disposable. So half of them are missing, and we know that some of them can't be there because it's going to be hit. But that's just something we need to update. And I usually just shoot an email to Public Works, but I think we need a better solution if we have to fix a signage situation on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Gary?
Yeah, I do that turn a lot because that goes, every time I'm working downtown, I'm down there and and it takes me home. It is a tough turn coming out of there, coming around there. Boy, sure don't want to make that any bigger. You really feel like you make that. I come over there lots of times. My tires actually hit on a little bit on the side because it looks like you're almost in the other lane. It is a tough turn to make sure that you're not impeding the traffic that's coming down the street. I'm not sure when you draw the lines there, making that bigger would certainly, my reaction would not help the situation at all.
Thanks. Sally? You're muted.
Yeah. I was just going to mention that you can even tell from the photograph that the striping for the lanes for cars that are coming out of the tunnel and toward the stop sign, their striping, which is kind of faded, is supposed to ask them to move further over toward the right so that there's more space for the cars that are coming around the bulb. But in fact, sometimes they don't see it and sometimes they don't. And therefore, when you make that right turn around the bulb, you're basically going head on into somebody else. So if you could do the striping, that would certainly be helpful, but to just keep that in mind, please.
I'm sorry, back up again. Can I make a comment about that? Because it happened to me today. One of the problems is if I use my arrow there, but that won't help. Also, though, on the right-hand side, if you're heading down Garrard, when you get nearer that intersection, there's parking spots here on the right-hand side. And what that does is push the people coming through away from the parked cars and more into the intersection. So one of the things may be those parking spots on the right-hand side should not be there because it really does push the people going north there over into the main intersection.
Oh, I love those parking spots.
Well,
I swim at the
okay.
pond, so I do adore those.
So this particular intersection is squarely within the area that we're considering as part of the downtown connectivity plan. So we'll have
Right.
lots of opportunities to continue to talk about ideas, both the problem that we're trying to address and ideas for ways to kind of resolve that, both near term and longer term.
Okay,
Thanks.
I think
Thanks.
I think as part of this, we do owe a little restriping here and a little cleanup for the interim period. So I think we can go ahead and do that.
Eating?
I'm sorry, Edie, we're not hearing you. Still no. Mm-mm.
The irony of our most tech savvy board member.
Do you want to maybe type it to us or can we? Okay. All right.
Type it or text it, either way, Edie. And I would like to just make a comment because I really want to move on,
Mhm.
move forward. But it is wildly complicated, the amount of street signage, striping, it's very, very busy. So I think one of the things we should be careful about as we move forward is to make sure that it's not getting more and more complicated. Complicated intersections slow traffic down, and that's good for everybody involved. But we're having a lot of crosswalk problems because, particularly up at the top of this page, that by the Roma Cafe, that's probably one of the most dangerous crosswalks. It's just nobody knows what's going on over there. So I just want to make sure we don't make things worse by adding more. And CSW is an expert in that. So
We do like simplicity. So Edie, I just wanted to bring forward your note that sometimes people aren't parking properly into those spots, which is also creating more friction at that intersection. And we're still not hearing you. I can hear.
All right,
Can
I
see.
think
Oh,
you
there
might be
you
able to
are.
hear me now. There we are. I unfortunately new headset and I didn't realize it actually has a mute button back here. And I did type it in there to address the parking, the cars parking in front of the plunge that are the diagonal parking. One of the issues that I've noticed on the regular is that many of them tend to be very large vehicles, very long vehicles, and they don't pull all the way forward. In fact, there is one truck that always parks in that corner spot, and he never pulls all the way in. So maybe as part of the plan to make sure that there's signs included in front of those spaces, reminding people parking that they need to pull all the way in to the point of where their wheels are touching the curb, because that extra butt end of those trucks and long cars, they do go into the road. And when people are making a right-hand turn from Richmond onto Gerard heading towards Miller Knox, they actually have to pull around that truck in order to get into that, which puts them farther out into the middle of the road. So people making the left-hand turn are also trying to avoid the bulb. They're coming, almost face to face with each other. We can smell their breath at that point.
Thank you for that graphic image. So this next one, I'm going to take it a little bit from you here, Robert. Really talks about in a bit all of the things that we've been kind of hinting at here, right? Someone mentioned, Peter, you mentioned earlier moving through downtown Point Richmond between the existing cycle track bikeways that are on Tewksbury and into the tunnel or out cutting. There is a gap there, right? And all of that really needs some thought and needs to be figured out and needs some clarity, simple clarity, right? To make that connection in a way that's working well. I want to reiterate that the full name of this project is the Downtown Point Richmond Bicycle and Pedestrian Connectivity Project. I've been shorthanding it to the Downtown Point Richmond Connectivity Project, but I do want to reiterate that it's about both the way in which bikes can move through this space, or people on bikes can move through this space, and the way people who are using Point Richmond on foot and using those connecting paths are moving about. So this is kind of the last kind of concern that was documented in the resolution that was brought to council and adopted. And I ordered it this way so we could see how some of those items really kind of link us directly into the discussion of our upcoming new project. So before we go into the next batch of slides, I just want to double check that we're okay on time. I should go ahead and move forward and talk about engagement and the project a little bit itself.
The unexpected part of this meeting was everything we just discussed.
Aha, so we're back on track.
I feel that this is important enough, and since this was the point of the meeting, that we're just going to run. I think we should just run this meeting. We picked up 15 police anyway. With
Okay.
the back of the place, so let's keep going. And
all right, I will go ahead and take us forward. So I have a thank you. Sorry, you froze for a minute. I figured I'd just head forward. And James, I see your comment there, and we'll make sure we get that documented and included in notes. So I am going to talk a little bit about what this project is, but the key focus of my presentation to you all this evening is to really talk about how we're doing engagement as a part of this project. Because as this conversation has demonstrated, there is a lot of knowledge, right, about the very detailed conditions along the routes that we're going to be looking at as a part of this project. So I'll touch on project scope and general project schedule, and then I'll talk about preliminary identification of stakeholders. There's one I've already missed on this list, I know, a general approach to the engagement schedule, and some of the sort of planned tools for the engagement, getting feedback and talking to folks, and also communication, getting information out about the project and keeping people informed. So this image on the right highlights that idea of a gap that I've been talking about. The purpose of the project is to really think about, and these are high-level concepts, how do we improve bicycle and pedestrian access and safety through downtown Point Richmond? We've already come up with some great ideas tonight. So I know that we're going to have more to talk about. And as a part of that project, we're also looking at how do we complete the bike network connection between those two pieces of the Bay Trail, ultimately linking, right, the Bay Bridge with the tunnel and out around the loop, that part of the Bay Trail. And then also, those facilities as they go out along Cutting, as we've spoken about, and take you into some of the bike facilities that lead into downtown Richmond, and then also out to the ferry, right, and Marina Bay. So this is a pretty key connection both for the community, the local community, and also for the regional system as a whole. So I'm sure that many of you are familiar with all of these plans, but one of the things I always like to ground us in as we come into any project is that there is existing planning work that generates a capital project or a public works project like this. So we want to make sure that we're referencing those plans, that we understand what's in them, we understand what's been discussed and documented in the past, but we also want to recognize that time has passed since these plans were developed and adopted, and we have to develop this project based on what exists in the world today. And that's why it is so important that we have a pretty robust engagement project, because you all and every stakeholder we talk to as a part of this project are the experts in the lived experience of this place, right? So our engagement process is really about gathering from you, right? Your lived experience, what you observe, what you see out in the world every day, and using that to inform an even better design as we move forward. So the scope of this project is two-part. It is about engagement and it is about design and engineering. So this list on the left identifies the big pockets of stakeholders, groups of people who have an interest in this project. And it ranges from all of the residents of the City of Richmond, because this is a gap within the city's larger network. Point Richmond residents, all of the businesses in downtown Point Richmond, you all as the representatives of the community, kind of from all walks, business, residents, you have connections with the school, so the PRNC is a key stakeholder, Washington School itself, the folks who work there, the parents who come to pick up their kids, the kids themselves. And then all of our bicycle and trail advocates, track and Rich City Rides in particular, to name a couple groups. And also, I would say the TCC Richmond Rising Group. And the TCC grant is a big grant that the city received that is looking at ways in other parts of the city of improving pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. And a couple of the projects it's funding are the Wellness Trail and the Neighborhood Complete Streets that run up and down Harbor Way and Marina Way, cutting, heading out to the ferry. So this gap is kind of a connector indirectly to those projects. So that's also a stakeholder. We want to make sure we're aware of what other projects are happening. Of course, we want to connect with the fire as a whole, and in particular with Station 61 here serving local community, the Office of Emergency Services. We know that evacuation and preparedness is a concern, and we want to be able to address those concerns through this project. And then, of course, the rail and the CPUSC, or the California Public Utilities Commission, are going to be kind of our big folks in the room that our engineering team really have to coordinate with to make some of those key crossings successful. So those are the conversations that we need to have. These are all of the kinds of perspectives that we want to be able to integrate together as we move through this project. The design, the engineering part of this is starting at the very beginning, right? We already have a lot of information. There are ideas that have been generated in the past about how this gap might be filled, but we're starting at the beginning with conceptual design. We're starting at the beginning with looking at the ways in which we as a community, both immediate and large, perceive that this gap can be filled. So we'll look at different design ideas. We'll take it through 30% design, which takes kind of all of those ideas and begins to put it on a map and see how it actually fits in space. And then the team will take it through the 60, the 90, the 100% final PS&E plans, specifications, and estimates. This particular project doesn't currently include any funding for construction. So we're taking these ideas that will be generated all the way through readiness to build as we move through the project as it's currently defined. So I'm going to keep talking. If anybody has a burning question, raise a hand or raise your eyes and I will pause. This right here is a look kind of at the bigger picture project schedule. In blue on the left are the phases where engagement is really key. As we're beginning the project, we're developing conceptual design we're gathering information from you. We're developing conceptual design alternatives. We're testing those ideas with you. We move what's been tested, what we've heard, into those preliminary designs, seeing how we can make it real in scaled plans, on the map. And again, we're testing that design with you, getting your feedback and doing refinements. And then even as we exit kind of that direct engagement process and we move into just kind of the technical piece of developing those drawings, we'll continue to want to be communicating how that design is evolving, because as we all know, as you go through the design process, you learn stuff that means things that need to kind of shift or get refined. So we'll continue to communicate. Gary, you had a comment? Yes, absolutely. January and February on the right should be 2027. Thank you for catching that. I'm actually not looping
I'm
time
sorry, I
as a
have to
part of this.
unmute. Yeah. Yeah. Can I tell you my question?
Yes.
Managed a lot of large projects from Kaiser and other places, and this all looks good, except for one thing. The end of it is still the actual execution. And so this ends in February 26th. This final plan specs and estimates. Nothing happens with that though. The question I want to look at, I guess, is okay, now what's the project schedule that goes from there that talks about execution?
So I can begin to respond to that, but I saw Robert sit up straight. Robert, did you want to respond?
Well, I was going to say that, right? So presumably, everybody can get together and we can come up with a plan. And as we're coming up with a plan and we're figuring out how much it's going to cost to actually implement this plan, Halal and Daniel are going to be actively working to secure grants and to use capital improvement funds to actually figure out a way to implement this. So the hope is, sometime, late this year, we understand what this is going to cost to implement, and Daniel and Hilal can work their magic and come up with some funding so that we can roll in and build this in 2027.
Absolutely, Robert. And definitely you're right. We look at the 60-90%. Usually that's where the engineer provide us the engineering estimate, we call it. And then we'll start, hunting for grants or maybe local match within the city. We'll fund it. We'll fund it.
Thank you for that question, Gary.
Okay, you're welcome.
So I just want to dive a little bit more into engagement. And this is a proposal. I'm happy to hear feedback on this. I'd like to get kind of through the idea and then hear your feedback on it. The way our firm thinks about engagement is that it is an iterative process with the community, that we are gathering our understanding as we start of the scope, which is, shifted. We've talked about some pieces tonight that are just a little bit outside of that gap, existing conditions, those background plans, and what we're hearing from you, what we already know to be the case as we enter the project. And we share our understanding with you, and you tell us whether we're right or wrong. You guide us as to other ideas that we need to be considering, other kinds of background information, the folks at Channel Lumber or that other business that we need to talk to. So you're helping us begin to connect with like the broader ecosystem that's around this project. And then out of that information, we're developing ideas, concepts, based on all that feedback we get, that's that bottom right. And then we kind of get all that together into a way and we communicate it back out to you. And we go around this cycle of a couple times, whereas we're communicating out our understanding or the design as it develops, and you tell us, what did we miss? What should we consider? What you like, which doesn't quite sit with you. And so as we are going through this process as a project team, we're wanting to meet with each of these different stakeholders. So we're getting a really strong idea and design based on all the different perspectives that are giving feedback on the evolution of that design work, the resolution of the problem. So this particular schedule focuses in just on that engagement piece, because I want to talk about some ideas around how we get outside of just sitting in a room or looking at plans on a screen, and kind of talking about ideas in the abstract. So we'll have 3 places where we really have milestones or touchstones in this project. Talking about opportunities, the beginning of the project, looking at some alternative design concepts, and then vetting out sort of that preliminary design. Did we get it right at the end? And at each of those points, we want to share information on a project website. We want to have online comment cards where folks who aren't able to meet in person, aren't connected to a particular group, can give us feedback. We want to have big in-person workshops in the community where we are in a room and we've got our pens and our plans and we're marking those up and we're really talking to each other face to face. But we also want to be having, individual stakeholder meetings, like coming to your PRNC and hearing specifically from you, what are all of your thoughts? Going out to some of our other groups in the community who have an interest in this project. What are their kind of detailed feedback? And then in those big in-person places, you can also be talking with each other and sharing those ideas. And then the big idea here is that we also have to get out on the site. Philip's used this tool to great effect. We've used this tool to great effect on many of our projects, where we get out there and we stand on the street and we look at what's there and we have our tape measures out, and we're sketching ideas and we're taking notes and we're really seeing and experiencing together what's happening. And what's great about this project is it's a relatively small area, so we can get together in small groups at each of these touch points in the project and walk the site. Talk about particular spots. We can go to the path along the plunge. We can stand in front of Mechanics Bank. We can stand in downtown Point Richmond at the corner up at Tewksbury and look at what's happening there and generate ideas about how we can address challenges and move the design forward.
Jesse, don't make it too expensive, so at least we can fund it.
It's all in there. This is what we wrote from the beginning, because we really feel like it's important to do this. Because we know that this is going to really affect, the folks in this community. Plus, we like walking in the neighborhood. So this is just another way of looking at those lists. So the things that I talked about just now are across the top. Those are our engagement tools. And we also want to make sure that we're clearly and consistently communicating about project process. So we will have a project website. We will be developing a mailing list for the project itself. We'll also be reaching out to partners like PRNC and our other project partners and stakeholders to ask them to share information, their mailing lists and newsletters. The City of Richmond City Manager's newsletter is a great way to get information out, as well as posting flyers around the neighborhood and asking folks to share with their neighbors and friends.
And I can share some input from what we did with the Keller Beach, the communication tools and stuff like that. That will be very helpful for you as well, Jesse.
That will be great. Hello, thank you. Lisa?
Yeah, quick question. So, what is going to be the mechanism for noticing the businesses? That is what I don't, the black hole for me. And whenever we had development projects, I mean, for design review board, for example, right, the city does a mailing to every address within 300 feet of the affected thing. And so, but that doesn't, in this case, when you've got so much coming into that area, even, along Cutting Boulevard, right there before Canal, I mean, those businesses are also impacted. And so my question is kind of what is the diameter of that reach for those businesses? And how will those businesses get notified, at least from the beginning?
Well, mailings are kind of a go-to tool. We always do them for our projects, mailing an announcement to folks within the general vicinity. I think 300 is a little bit short, but that general buffer. We've had actually more success with having one of our junior staff members walk and knock on doors and hand out flyers, like dropping off a flyer in person to each of those businesses. This has been a particularly effective tool on industrial corridors, like cutting, where you have somebody at a front office who might actually be able to connect you with the staff who are interested in the project, rather than sending mail through USPS to someone who may or may not be right on site.
Right. Jesse, I would suggest also maybe to hold a stakeholder meeting. Maybe that would help so you can get all those businesses also in the loop. So maybe a stakeholder, we get all those businesses, communication or contact list or whatever, and then we can have at least we can capture those folks as well.
Yeah.
And one way to facilitate that, so some of those businesses, like right there on Cutting, right, they're not part of the Chamber of Commerce, but they may be part of the Council of Industries. And so reaching out to the director of Council of Industries and Vernon Whitmer for the Chamber of Commerce, because Vernon and I are the ones who actually walked Cutting Boulevard and talked to all of those businesses from Hoffman Boulevard all the way to Garrard.
Okay.
Good comment.
We have Lisa, we have a pretty good connection. The port has a pretty good connection with the port-centric businesses, so I have a weigh in on that.
Yeah.
And I know the Channel Lumber people, so a lot of this is going to be, just on the grounds, just making phone calls. And, again, since we're a business down there too, like I want to get to know my fellow businesses around, so I'll be pounding pavement as well.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to open any doors for us, I would love to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
We just had to walk it.
And
walking's the best way.
Jesse, I just want to point out that I do have, just for those of you who didn't read the newsletter, I got a lot of grief from the community, which I deserved, for our October meeting for not pressing harder when we had the assistant city manager here. So there were some questions that remained unanswered that I promised to bring up. So I just want to it's not much, and we can pick that up again next month with the city manager. But I also definitely want to ask some of these questions involve the fire chief, and I'm honored to have him here. And so I want to make sure that we don't lose him.
Okay, so I guess my closing word is,
Mhm.
as you guys hear, what was just shared, and you started to generate some ideas about how we get the word out, please send them my way. I'm going to drop my email into the chat. If you have personal ideas you want to share, if there's someone that you think that we need to talk to, anything that you want to, kind of get into the project team's hand, please share that.
And Bruce, you had a question or a comment? They are. Bruce?
Yes, working on, okay. I just want to comment first that it's really important to recognize that this connectivity project through the historic district includes some very important pedestrian improvements as well as major overhauls and improvements of bus stops. So it's much more than bike lanes that we're talking about on cutting. Very different kind of project. And also, I think it'd be really important to get involved in the Richmond Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee, as well as Bike East Bay. Track is not a bicycle organization, and don't think that we are. I don't have a bicycle. I haven't one for years. We are a San Francisco Bay Trail Project organization, and that includes both pedestrians and cyclists and rollerbladers, etc. So I wanted to make those points. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we have a messy situation with sidewalks and bus stops, certainly on Tewksbury at Washington. Fire chief, can you field a question? Chief Osorio? Are you still with us?
Yeah, I can try.
Okay, thank you, Chief. There are two things I want to discuss, one of which is a little off topic, but significant because one of the main challenges we've had is that our community, every time we say emergency evacuation, anything to do with emergency services, vehicles, and evacuation, the conversation, we're not allowed to have that conversation. People talk about everything but. We've had meetings with the Public Works Director. We've had meetings sponsored by the Public Works, like sponsored by Council Member Bonner, who asked for a meeting to discuss evacuation routes. That meeting was scheduled when Councilwoman Bonner was out of the country. So it's really difficult for us to figure out if Public Works is deliberately kind of avoiding this topic, or if it has been it's politically incorrect to talk about it. So let me try to narrow down the things that I cannot get an answer from. One of the challenges we have is the continuous, and by the way, the previous chief and even the old chiefs have talked about the challenges they have with this area and other areas where bike lanes have come up, where they present something called like a 30% plan. So you're shown something, and then and you weren't here personally, but fire or emergency services are shown something, and then 5 or 6 years later, something entirely different is built. And the city says, well, we presented to the fire department. So the challenge we have is not necessarily the idea as to whether or not a fire truck can enter. Let's talk about the bike lane that runs along cutting up by the elementary school, by the dog park. Do you understand that area?
Yes, I know.
The problem that we have is not whether or not you physically could fit in there. The problem that they refuse to answer our questions about is what happens when there's a train and there's so much gridlock that you can't get in. And the elementary school can't be serviced. And I've got video of this, and I've been chastised by some local organizations for talking about the worst possible scenario. Like if I say, well, what if there's 2 trains? But these are all scenarios that have actually happened that I have video of. Or 2 trains, or the tunnel is down, and we have 1 train. I think that emergency services needs to plan for the worst possible scenario so we don't end up with what we saw in LA, where people were fleeing from their vehicles. So, I'd like to have a better understanding in the near future because this question has been deliberately blown off with both police and fire, about exactly what it would look like when we are so gridlocked that nobody can get into the areas. And what good is it for you to get into the bike lane if there's a train there and there is no longer an alternative? And I will, if I can find some of your valuable time, I'll do the same drive with you that I've done with everyone else to show you where our emergency evacuation routes used to be. Not only with bike lanes, but just in other aspects of town as well. The other thing that is unrelated to this specific incident, which which I don't want you to answer now, but I'll put it on my list of things for Shasa, for the city manager next month, is why is this East Richmond dead end at what we call Frogtown? Why is that emergency evacuation route not up? And why is the fire department continuing to tell the city manager that it is when we can see with our eyes, and I see Councilman Zepeda here. I walk my dog
You
there,
broke up. What
you
you
know,
said? The fire department's continually saying what, and it's not. You broke up.
that Knox box situation where the emergency service is supposed to be able to travel through at the end of East Richmond through the Wareham development. Why does the city think that that project has been complete? There's a lot there, and I don't want to go into too much of it, but I really want you to please put it on your list of things to take a look at.
We have taken a look. We've had meetings about that. The
Okay.
fire code states that a business property and owner has to have Knox access for public safety access at every port of entry to their property. The canal side has an automatic Knox gate, which has been experiencing the last few times we sent inspectors out there. It was stuck in the open position. It actually wasn't functioning, so they could close.
That's great.
And then there was a Knox padlock chained on the one on the West Richmond side. And so
that's actually East. That's called East Richmond, but
East Richmond.
That's fine. That's Frogtown. No, it's just a regular padlock.
It doesn't really matter because we can get through a lock and get through that gate, no problem.
Okay.
And the next inspection, it'll be back on the inspection list to see if it's a Knox pad, and if it's not, then they'll be cited and have to come back and fix it, and we re-inspect it. We haven't found a gate in the city of Richmond with a chain on it that we can't get through.
Okay.
But the fire code, it requires that with no agreement with the property owner. As a business owner, they have to allow access for public safety. What they don't have to allow is that be an evacuation route for the general public. The fire code specifically specifies that access is for emergency personnel. So police, fire, and ambulance, in the event of emergency, can get through there. So
we understand that. Thank you.
So part of what goes on is we're dealing with trains all the time coming into Point Richmond, right? 61 deals with trains right there at the plunge sometimes, right at that intersection around the corner there. And so it's not uncommon to have a delay by a train. And it's at that time, the captain's assessment of, is this train like not moving and we need to go around, or is it quicker to stay there? And it's an estimate, right? Because you could go all the way around and that's going to add minutes to the response. And sometimes it's better to wait depending on what's going on, because the alternatives all add minutes. It's not like, oh, this is 30 seconds longer to go turn around and go back and hop on the freeway and get off a canal. It depends the location. It's very dynamic. It depends where's the location, what is the delay, what is the emergency. So there is only a limited number of ways in and out of areas of the point, areas out to Dornan, out in the Brickyard. And then there is the fire trail system that, in a worst case scenario, we have access to. We can access the East Bay Parks trail system near East Brothers Brewery off of Canal, which can take us up to the top on Nickel Knob. We have fire trail access, all the 61 gates that are near the Railroad Museum, and by across from Keller Beach. There's multiple points of entry that can get us up into the park if we needed to there. So, every detour is going to add multiple minutes to a response. And, it's hard to give a generalized statement like, well, if we go this way, it's going to add 5 minutes to our response. It depends where it's at. I will say this, we have had a number of significant incidents, especially most recently last summer. We had a vegetation fire that we accessed out near the Ramblers. We haven't had an incident where we can't get to where we need to get. And I'm not saying in worst case scenario, there's not going to be a level of traffic that might be, unprecedented, but we do have multiple ways into different parts of Point Richmond. And using the Knox Gate at Canal there at the commercial property is one of the things we can do if we feel it's going to be quicker to go that way to get to where we're trying to get than to turn around and take an alternative route. But the thing that people need to remember is that there is no evacuation routes. There are main thoroughfares in and out of neighborhoods and locations. What we continually running into, and I think this is people relate it to, they see a sign that says evacuation routes near the coastal areas where there's tsunami issues. There is one way you're supposed to head. There is a known direction that the hazard is coming from, and so that you know which way you're supposed to head to get away from that hazard. But when you're talking about all risk fire evacuation routes, you can't have one route that you say is used for wildfire and used for a hazmat incident, a refinery incident, a tsunami like we were warned about last year that came, it turned out to be nothing. The location of a hazard and how you evacuate in a safe direction, that's an extremely dynamic situation. It's completely based on the location of the hazard, weather conditions, oftentimes when it comes to wildfire and chemical releases and industrial incidents. So what we need folks to understand is we identify the main thoroughfares that we would use potentially if we needed to evacuate. And by being part of our Everbridge Nixle system and CWS, part of what Richard would be doing or police would be doing is identifying and messaging out to the community the roads to not take because there is a hazard that way. If you know all the routes, we would tell you, do not take the tunnel due to a collapse, exit through Canal or Seacliff, right? People need to be nimble and very dynamic when it comes to how they respond to emergency evacuation orders.
Thank you, Chief. I think we understand what you're saying, and I'd like to invite you in the summer to come. It's been a while since you first came on. In the end, your thoughtful reply didn't answer the question, which is our frustration, or maybe the community is asking the wrong question, which is how were those routes considered when building these lanes, which affect the routes? So,
well, are you
we don't
asking
have
me
we don't have time to discuss it, and I don't want to be rude because I opened up the conversation, but it sounds like I've opened up a conversation that needs more time.
Well,
So,
are you asking me specifically on what's existing, what the engagement was with the fire department? I'm not clear on what you're asking because I feel
yeah,
like
that was kind of where we went because they kept saying we asked, but what they presented years ago was nothing like what they built. And it's really hard to hear Public Works say we asked these questions, and then you do a public record search and it has nothing
well,
to do with nothing.
I don't think I can't speak to what
Mhm.
a previous chief experienced. I can speak to what the process I've experienced as I've been the fire chief.
Mhm.
And every project that Halal is involved with currently, there has been a sit-down meeting with us where we reviewed the plans. I've requested them to change. Right now, we've done the one going down Marina Way South, crossing Cutting all the way to the water. We are doing one currently on Carlson in front of Station 64. And there was another one we're doing with on the Barrett, continuation of Barrett, that will pick up from South 18th or from 18th and go all the way to just past Kaiser. In every single one of those projects, I've personally sat into the review. I've just actually, they have changed the types of stanchions or drivable bollards they're going to use for the bike lane. They have adjusted the width of bike lanes so that if necessary, I can accommodate one of my fire apparatus down those lanes as an ingress and egress point. So I can speak to the engagement I personally experienced with all the other projects that are similar to this. We have gone as far as at the 37th Street and Wall. We bring out fire apparatus and our ladder truck, and they set up demo barriers that we actually have to navigate with our apparatus. And they also receive the turning radius and dimensions for every fire apparatus that we have in the city that they compare when they do their plan review, because our prevention division sends them that every time we get a different apparatus that has a different wheelbase and turning apparatus. So I can speak to the effort they put forth in making sure that we're engaged.
Right.
I cannot speak to what happened on this one. Like you said, I was not the fire chief. The fire marshal currently was not the fire marshal then, but it is my understanding that the same process has always been there in some iteration or another. But I can't speak to the specifics because we bring up the problems or the concerns, and then we usually see them that they're addressed, and then we move on with the project. I haven't experienced a project where we said, hey, this is a barrier for us to respond or to make this turn, and that it's been ignored. And
No,
so
absolutely
Thank
not
you.
the case.
Uh,
Absolutely
thank
not the
you.
case. I
Philip,
appreciate
I
the
would,
fire. Yeah.
I would like, no, I just would like clarification, Philip. You mentioned the Public Works Director didn't get involved in this project. Are you talking about me or the previous Public Works Director? Which project are we talking about?
Which project? I don't know.
No, but you just mentioned the Public Works Director many times. So at
Oh,
some
well,
point, I
this
would
would have
like,
been
I mean,
before.
and,
This
and
would have
I
been
and I can tell you, I can stay
Yeah.
here all till midnight. But the idea is that we address all the questions. We put it in the staff report. I asked Hilal to call you last Tuesday and share these questions. We share it with you via email, right? You had the opportunity to call the city council. You have the questions and answers before it was published, right? I believe you share it with the entire neighborhood council here, so they had also the opportunity as you to review them. If you had any comment, you could have contacted us. You could have called the city council or attend the meeting. I know that didn't happen, so we answered the questions that you presented to the deputy city manager that attended the meeting last year. So at a moment, I think we need to move forward. I mean, community meetings. I mean, Jesse just present all the process for
Daniel,
all the
I
community.
agree with you.
Hold on. I mean, hey, look, you talk before you ask your questions. It took you 5 minutes and 32 seconds now to ask the question. Now, what I want to make it clear is that nobody's hiding here. We're having these community meetings. You have a staff here receiving the input from the community to improve whatever happened in the past, where none of the staff that is currently here had the positions that we have right now. So we're trying to fix or improve things that the community felt that was not appropriately addressed. And so every time you go back to the past and try to put it on current staff, it's unfair and it's even disrespectful. And I'm done there.
I can understand how you feel that way, Daniel. Ultimately, it is, in my opinion, the staff's responsibility. The staff's relationship with the community is their responsibility. All we can do is ask questions in good faith. So I think one of the concerns of the community is when we say specific, please show us the specific outreach that was done on some project. Certainly that was before, the outreach was done before your time, but 3 years, for 3 years, I'm saying, can you just show me this outreach? Because your staff is moving forward based on saying that the outreach was done. And that's our frustration. I think I have a good relationship with you. I hope so. I'm certainly straightforward. And Hillel has been really a good communicator. Not everyone in your department is great at communicating.
What
And
about
that's
Darcy?
okay. That's okay.
Darcy, I would like to have the conversation maybe offline to
Sure.
hear specific cases so we can improve in that
But
too.
I will resubmit the questions that came back from Hillel where we asked for specific examples and didn't receive them. Now, the good news is we're moving forward. And we're here to do that. But it is ultimately going to be up to the city to regain the lost trust. And Hillel particularly has done an excellent job with that. And Keller Beach, I think, is a perfect example. We just want to make sure that we're heard. And we definitely, I think most people in this community know the CSW staff, many of us personally. And so we're really comfortable with them doing the outreach. I've heard nothing otherwise. And the relationship between Hillel and CSW and the community, or both of your contractors, including on Keller Beach. So I'm not here to attack you, Daniel, but Jesus Christ, man, how many times do I have to say, please show us the specific example of what you reached? And then I'm asking stupid questions of Chief Osorio. Because I've said, can you show me what they saw? And you say, well, they saw something. And then now one of the busiest and most important men in our community is answering a stupid question from a neighborhood council president because we don't know what he saw. And it's really nearly impossible for us as taxpayers to figure out which of these questions is significant and when we're being blown over. So we just ask the questions and ask the questions.
I understand your point, but what I'm trying to say is there are things that we cannot change because we were not here where they were in the past. And that's the reason why staff with CSW brought the item last Tuesday or last night to the city council to requesting these funds to make these modifications to something that was done before.
And we're grateful for that because really almost everything that Robert and Hillel have mentioned are the things that we've been pointing out and driving for the last 3 years, not with you, but with your staff. So
but I remember when I started that you were probably in my office the second day.
It was the second day.
And that you were very concerned about all this situation, and but hey, we didn't have Hilal at that time. We didn't have the staff. We only have one intern in the engineering department, right? But now is the time, and now we want to make these changes. So I think we all need to celebrate this part. Now, the questions that you have that we summarized in the staff report as well, and we gave the answers that we can give you, might not satisfy, everything you want to know, but that's what we can offer. That's what we have.
That's fine.
we can spend, I can tell the staff, don't work anymore. Let's try to figure out this thing. But it's going to be a delay because there's many information that we were not hearing. Unfortunately, the institutional knowledge left with the folks that left.
I understand. But there's institutional knowledge that remains in the community.
And I understand that. And I understand that.
And thank you for asking for that.
Now, and now we're trying to, as I said, start this new project in a different environment. And I mean, just the presentation that Jesse made with the outreach, I hope that's something that sets the tone for a more positive experience for the community in this new project. But what I try to avoid is to start going in circles again. If we're moving forward, I think we're moving forward. You mentioned also Darcy. Darcy, same as Hilal, they are very involved. They're very responsive to the community. And Darcy's just turned 1 year with the city. Hilal turned a year and a half, more, a little bit, not even year and a half. But imagine if they stay for longer, how much more we can be able to do.
Well, you've certainly built a better team than we've seen in the last 30 years. A bigger and better team than we've seen in the last 30 years.
Make us stick around longer if we don't want to run away.
We'll try to be nice to you, Hillel.
I appreciate you guys.
We always offer coffee. I think that's about all we are allowed to take.
Thank you.
Lisa has a question, and then we'll move on with the meeting and thank everybody for their time.
I just have a question for Chief Osorio because I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So on the East Richmond gate from Wareham, so that's not an electrified fence like the one on Cutting. So what is the process going to be for that to become compliant? Because there's $100,000 in the budget that's been allocated since 2024 to create that emergency vehicle bypass route, right? It wasn't for the people, it was just for the vehicles. And that was to electrify the East Richmond gate and to put a mechanism on there for emergency vehicles to be able to open it like the Canal Boulevard one. So what is the process going to be?
Well, that's private property. So I don't understand how we would set aside public funds to install a gate on a private property. We have to make sure it abides by the fire code. I'd have to double check with the fire marshal, but there are other facilities in town that don't have motorized gates with Knox access, but in lieu of, they have a Knox padlock and they're manual gates that you would push open or have some sort of catch on, which also abides by the same access requirements in the fire code. What was floated by the fire department and police department was taking those funds that I think you were referring to and purchasing the parcel that is adjacent to that and punching through a road. Because basically, if we want to make this you got to remember that when this was first presented, this was presented as an emergency route that would be available to be used by the public. I'm just telling you what it was presented to us. I attended a meeting personally with Lieutenant Decius, with Public Works. It started as, can we ask for permission from the property owner to motorize that gate so that it can be both ways? The property owner said, according to what got back to us, I didn't speak to the property owner, but what I was told is the property owner said, we are fine with it being for public safety, but we are not fine with it being for public access in an emergency. If you would like that to be something we discuss, we need to be discussing how much the city will pay us to allow that access. As a city, we said, they asked my input and the police department's input. I do not agree with any escape route being locked. It has to be accessible at all times, no matter the conditions, because we will be focused on the emergency response, and we cannot guarantee that we can get someone with the proper key to get there to open it, where then it becomes a useless route. So there's other locations in the city where we've had similar issues where they want to put in a gate, but it's locked. Well, it's only an escape route if it's always available 24/7, no matter the conditions. So the idea transitioned, what if the city purchased the adjacent parcel and punched the road through, so now you can get through Canal, and it's always available as a second means of entry and exit from the neighborhood. It can be used as ingress and egress in the event of an emergency. And I honestly do not know if that went any further, if that was even feasible. I don't know if the amount of money that was set aside is even enough to purchase that parcel, or if it's even for sale. But that is where that last ended that involved the fire department.
And we looked at it as well. It's not, I don't think with the 100K it's feasible. There's more stuff we need to, when you purchase a land and the easement and design the roadway, if it's feasible in the first place. So most likely those 100K probably will go back to our, general funds. I don't see any use to it for now.
But yeah, we wouldn't have, the city wouldn't have put those public funds into a privately owned piece of property. I mean, now we're starting to get into, we're going to fix everybody's, change gates and use public funds to do maintenance or abide by fire code that a property owner is supposed to do.
Chief, I'd like to extend an invitation to you for April. I'll send you an email. So we can discuss this, and it's just time to heal from fire again, because there've been so many changes in fire zones and fencing. So hopefully you'll be able to join us in April or May, and this can be one of the things we can bring back up again. And we can send you, some written questions to be more specific, because most of the people in this meeting don't know what we're talking about. So it would be great if we could clarify that. And perhaps I shouldn't have brought it up in this meeting. And if that was the case, I apologize. Maybe it was
I feel
better.
like we keep on revisiting the same event, same things.
Yeah.
And, as far as there's that kind of died where it was left, just like Halal said. Halal was part of that meeting too. But I think I will need to come back, because we are making updates to the fire zones, that it will involve Point Richmond. It won't be zone 0 or anything like that. It would just be what was previously done in Point Richmond and involve the entire coastline out there.
Sure.
So
we would love to have you probably in April. I'll send you an invitation and we'll see. And I'm sure CERT will want to be there, and some representatives from Brickyard Cove will want to be there as well, the condo associations or homeowner associations usually come. And Lisa, you can help me clarify those questions in writing again.
Yeah, I'll just Chief Osorio, I'm going to send you an email, and I'll set up a time to have a phone call with you and Lena Velasco.
Thank you so much. All right. City officials. Oh, Jesse.
I just wanted to also put in a request for April or May spot on your agenda. We didn't quite get all the way through the presentation, but I want to make sure. No, it's okay. My last question was, can we get a tentative spot on your agenda in April or May for that first kind of touch point? I anticipate that's when we'll be doing our first workshops and bringing ideas. And so I don't want to ask too late, right? And
okay, why don't we talk? Can you just give me a buzz, and we'll try to schedule this in, and maybe that even happens in March.
Philip,
and we switch our March meeting.
I got a request from, I believe, from Sally Tobin to discuss the street light, to have a presentation for the street light survey that we're doing. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay. If you guys are interested, we can, I have my consultant, they can, do a presentation like 5-10 minutes, just what we're doing. It's a survey that we posted through Instagram and city website, to get an idea where you guys, where, pretty much street, where we need lighting and where we're not. I don't know if you guys are interested.
Well, it sounds like what we could do, and we've done this before, is we usually have council members of PETA as the guest. And what we do is just kind of pick up these loose ends, 5 or 10 minutes here, 5 or 10 minutes there. So the whole public works staff doesn't have to come, or council members of PETA does an excellent job at communicating with you and bringing that back to the community.
He's excellent. I'm glad to
work so
with
that
him.
You don't have to be here till 9:30.
Sure.
And
Honest
I
lady.
just knew nothing about the project when I ran into it online, and so that's why. And the contact was in the mayor's office, and so I
Yeah,
corresponded with Tony Tamayo, and he said he would pass it on to Public Works.
right.
So
And
I
I
was
saw your email.
very,
That's why I saw your name here. I said, okay, this is a good opportunity
Great.
for
And Sally, if you forward it to me, I can work with Hillel to bring it to the community if
that
it's
would be
something we
absolutely.
great.
need to know.
Yeah.
That's
Why
great.
not?
Okay. Jesse, I'll talk to you tomorrow and we'll figure it out. You're the
Perfect.
this is the priority in our community right now is to get this right. So that all these nice people from Public Works can move on to the other 8,000 projects they have in the city. And Chief, again, you know how I feel about firefighters. I think I've told you my story, so I'm grateful for this really long meeting that you sat through. I'm really grateful for you as a firefighter. City folks want to go. Thank you so much. We're grateful for you.
Thank you.
And Jesse, I'll touch base with you. Thanks, Daniel. And let's try to finish up this meeting, which may be the second longest meeting in my history. Um, Community briefs. If you don't have anything interesting going on, we'll keep them short. Sure. Anything?
Jackie does.
Oh,
I know it's an odd one. A brief take off my Point Richmond resident hat, put on my AmeriCorps hat briefly. Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie. I do work in OES, but we do have a survey coming up. It will be in the city manager's newsletter coming up soon. So if you're in the CERT stuff, you're going to be hearing from me. It's kind of just about emergency preparedness stuff. I know it does relate to what we were just talking about. But keep an eye out for that. I'll contact Philip to see if we can get some distribution on it.
sure.
I'm happy to be here and happy to be reporting to you all. So hopefully I can talk with the chief and Richard and all that good stuff. So
Thanks,
thank you guys.
Jackie. We lost Charmaine, so she can't, I don't see her, won't report on what's happening locally. We're running really late today.
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Anything to talk about, sir, dear?
Yes, I would like to summarize the last Keller Beach meeting.
From CERT or through the?
Oh, not CERT. No, I thought you were talking about LUDRC.
We'll do it in a minute.
In May?
We'll do it in a moment.
Oh, we'll do it later. Okay.
Okay, in a minute. Yeah, Point Richmond history, Mary Jo? James, any news?
The new newsletter will be coming out in about a week. It's about all I have.
All righty. We will look for it at our local market. Margie, Arts of Point Richmond?
Hi, yes. So just a couple things. February is a very, very great month because we have the African diaspora all around town. And it's on February 21st. It starts at the post office. It goes to El Sol. Kaleidoscope at 2 o'clock for our artists talk. It goes to the library. We're so lucky to have Susan White as our librarian, and she's going to do a reception. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to have an artist talk there at the Point Richmond Gallery. And that's about it. Lots of stuff good going on.
Super duper. Thank you very much. Is Kate? I didn't see her in this meeting today, but we had a lot of pages. Kate Spalding, are you here? I think Magic Lantern's a little bit on hold.
Kate Spalding is not here.
Okay. I don't see Layla for Pram, but I did mention that we are probably going to do the spring fling. Pretty much Pram's going to do it in conjunction with us.
Phil, do you have the date for the spring fling?
Tentatively, Saturday. Let's see, March. Tentatively Saturday the 28th, because it's usually
right
a full week before Easter, just in case we get rained out. It gives us the opportunity to do the actual Saturday before. I'll get it out.
Right.
as soon as we confirm it. And I need to see what Fran wants to do with it. Now we're back to Brickyard Cove, which is also frequently Charmaine and or Lisa. I don't know if you do that anymore. Charmaine, anything from the HOAs?
Not really for the community. Just that I appreciate the Ferry Point station starting to look better.
Yeah, she's great. Public Works has a good person on the job. You wanted to just review the LUDRC meeting or the Keller Beach meeting as part of the LUDRC presentation?
Right. We met on January 14th at the city center, and I chose to do it online on Zoom, but I could see all the people there and I could take notes. There were about 20 neighbors in person and online, as well as people from City of Richmond and Kearns and West and BKF Engineering, which are the groups that have the contract to work with the city and the community to try to figure out what to do with Keller Beach sewer system. So this was a detailed meeting, and I'll just run through some points. The sewer system was originally constructed in 1959, and in 2021, it was looked at and found that it was in poor condition. One of the concerns are large pipes and that aren't working correctly, and there's also a number of multifamily units. There are about 340 lots and 290 sewer connections. And what they're doing right now is this meeting was to explain to the community what they're going to do. So they're going to review all the documents and background information, define and evaluate 6 alternatives, conduct field investigations, screen the alternatives, collaborate with and support public outreach while working closely with the city. And they're going to come out with a report in the May to June timeframe. The city's collection system must comply with all state, county, national regulations, as well as Bay Area boards, permits, and regulations. And the list is long. So there's a whole group of people just working on permitting. The entire sewer system must not leak or overflow, must be able to be thoroughly cleaned and inspected. They went into a lot of detail about this, how they can clean the system and how they can inspect with cameras. They can't now because the pipes are dirty. Some of them have collapsed. Some are sagging, and it's very difficult to, well, it's been too long. They're talking about certain kind of defects have to be repaired or rehabilitated. The high consequence of failure must be mitigated, or the city could land up with a lot of fines that would be very expensive. So this all applies to a citywide sewer system, not just Keller Beach. It's all got to be in good shape. Any solution has to be fully accessible, inspectable, and repairable. And in actuality, it should be inspected every 5 years, which this one was not. So in 2021, when they did the inspection, they did 70% of the system inspected and 30% was incomplete or not inspected. But they do have the reports. The evaluation criteria they're going to use is a list of hydraulics, constructability, environmental and regulatory, construction cost, operations and maintenance, social and community impacts, risk and resilience, and right of way. So they made a good presentation informing the public and setting expectations. They went into some details showing photos of different kind of pipes and explained how they can repair, how they can rehabilitate, and how they can replace the piping systems. It was very informative, and there was lots of question and answers from neighbors. So I think that we're on our way with some hope that they're going to come back with a report that's meaningful. The next steps are that they're going to gather the information and prepare a report to present. Then the next public workshop will focus on the evaluation results, and that will be May or June. I am going to put the contact information in the chat. You can get a recording of that meeting, also handout materials and a summary. And I'll put that in the chat. And also, if you want to contact the team of people working on this at any time, I'll put that information in the chat as well. And Hillel Hamden has been in all the meetings, and he's very aware of everything that's going on. I think that the community felt like they had a chance to speak at this meeting. There were a lot of questions. So that's a summary of the Keller Beach meeting that happened in January. And
That's an
that's all I
excellent,
have.
that's an excellent review, and I am most encouraged that people felt heard, because that's been a really big hurdle. And Charmaine, I want to thank you because you are sharp as a tack on this. All the LUDRC people are, but your institutional knowledge on how to watch these meetings and what questions to ask is really remarkable. So a lot of times people don't see the LUDRC, but it's probably one of the most important parts of the neighborhood council. Thanks. On to maskers. We haven't had a representative. Jim sometimes speaks up, but he's not here. Anyone want to speak on maskers? The Richmond Neighborhood Coordinating Council is doing African I want to get it right. African American month.
African diaspora?
No, it's I'm sorry, my cold medicine is kicking in. The next month, the Richmond Coordinating Council will be honoring the Black citizens.
Right.
I have Cordell's report if you want it.
Oh, sure, you can read it off. I just want to say that I don't think I'm going to get any objection from the board. The PRNC would like to donate some money to the Richmond Coordinating Council to help to underwrite the expense of the celebration. So I sent an email out. I think we should send $100 over.
Okay.
We've got it. Yeah.
Is there
Go ahead, Peter.
African American History Month?
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. I'm sorry. My brain is failing. Peter?
His report said February is Black History Month dedication. And said Tim Simmons provided an overview of what the plans are for restructuring the Richmond Police Department. City staff provided the reports. No old business. And Doris Mason from the Iron Triangle Neighborhood Council, and J.C. Farr of the East Shore Neighborhood Council, A.G. Jelana, Bending Woods Neighborhood Council. So apparently these are new people on those councils, which is always nice to hear that they're active. So anyway, that's it.
I think that those might also be a list of honorees at Black History Month.
Okay, he's not clear. He abbreviates.
I think that's what he's saying. And Nat Bates, former council member Nat Bates from our own neighborhood.
He is also on there. Yes.
Yeah. Good. That's what that is. So we'll send them $100 to buy cupcakes or whatever they want. Mr. Hurlbut,
So while
we've
you're
got a
talking,
lot to talk about.
No, I know I'm going to keep it short. I don't need to, I have a few other things to talk about. Just a couple things. As you may notice, the plunge we've been doing our winter cleanup, and we're going to do more next week. So there's more coming. You can see the big piles of weeds across from the bank. With all the rain we've had this winter, we had lots of weeds. Anyway, that's all good. More importantly, though, what I wanted to talk about for just a second was Snowball Scholarship. And some of you that lived here longer than me know that in 1952, Richmond used to sponsor an annual snowball, which brought together it was a ball, and it celebrated formal a winter prom. This goes back a few years. However, since 2020, the city stopped doing the actual ball itself. However, Mira and I felt that the scholarship portion of that really needed to continue. So we've been working to head up the Snowball Scholarship Fund, which is for students going on. We've done that for the last couple of years. And I can send along a notice, and that's Phil, I think Maren talked to you about this. For anybody who's willing to contribute, like Maren said, if there was a $1 donation from everybody in the city, it'd be $100,000 we could use for scholarships for these kids coming out of high school. So it's really a very something really great for some of our young students. And it's not just who looks best at the prom. It has a lot to do with what was their grade point average and what did they contribute in the schools. So it's a great event. Unfortunately, the ball has gone away, but giving scholarships has been really, really important for some of our great students coming out. So I could send something along. Maybe we can send out through the PRNC, but. Like I can tell you that I know that the hurlbutfoundation.org is a place you can go to contribute, but rather than going through all that right here, I can send something that you could actually send out. That would be great.
Happy to include it in the next newsletter.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's all.
Okay, Women's West Side. Diane, you still with us? Is anyone who's not in bed? Thank you.
am. Oh my God, but
Phil?
you passed you.
Did I miss somebody?
Yeah,
Miss me,
Graham.
Phil. Sorry.
So go back to Graham.
It's your turn this week, Graham.
That's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Very briefly, subjects aren't exhausted, but the audience is. Just talk about our movie programs for late winter and spring, focusing on mainly Hitchcock movies. On February the 19th, it's Shadow of a Doubt. Then on March 19, it's Family Plot. Then in April and May, we have a couple of San Francisco Hitchcock movies. The Birds on April the 16th, and on May the 21st, we have Vertigo. And in June the 18th, we have our annual showing of Casablanca. So please do join us. They're great movies. Come and sit on the ship. We like a contribution of $10, but if you can only afford 10 cents, well, we'll take that too. So please do join us to watch these great old movies, mainly by Hitchcock. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. And now on.
Okay, thank you.
To the newly natural Diane Diani.
Yes, my dear. So, all of our gardens were touched, including rose pruning, weeding, and cutting back overgrown plants in preparation for a lovely spring blooming. A few native plants were purchased from West Shed Nursery and planted, and our gardener also helped us with transplanting, removing, and pruning. So a lot's been going on. We're meeting next Tuesday the 3rd. 11:30 is brown bag lunch and 12 o'clock meeting. And we have our guest speaker. So Jim Davis, as you all know, will be speaking on eating and shopping on the home front, food and rationing in World War II. And we're looking forward to the talk. Also, we're going to celebrate Valentine's Day with cards, and we will be picking up trash at Miller Knox Park. Everyone's invited on Tuesday, February the 10th from 10 to 12. And we provide trash bags, gloves, and sometimes grabbers. So hope to see you there. Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Oh boy. Ping pong?
Well, we keep having ping pong players show up. I think we had 8 this Monday, and a few new faces. So, yeah, if you don't have anything else to do, come on by the Point San Pablo Yacht Club on Cutting, and 5 o'clock on Mondays. Our oldest player is 90. I think our youngest player is 60. So if you want to socialize or you want to get a little bit of exercise, it's a great place to go.
Thank you very much. Sounds like that's going strong after all these years. Anybody on Rosie, or should we just kind of incorporate Graham's comments into the Rosie portion? All righty. I do have one. Does anybody have any remembrances or celebrations? Yes, Gary.
Yeah, Phil, I have a heartfelt remembrance for Alex Peretti and Renee Good. And let us not forget what really happened there and where we've got to get to a better place. And it's just so horrific. And we cannot ever forget. And we've got to keep working on those things not happening. And we sure want to never forget them.
I think that I think that this time is so frightening for so many people that it's really easy to turn off the news and go to Mrs. C's and, just try to avoid watching what seems so realistic. So thank you for pointing that out. I think it's important. I do have, pardon me, I do have an email from Ruth Presetto, who wanted to mention that long-term neighbor, I knew this guy vaguely, Peter Bostiak, who lived his whole life in the Point. He used to hang out in front of the Santa Fe market and sometimes behind the counter there. He passed on. I don't have many more details, but I know she is going to submit something to this point in time. So maybe we'll see a little bit about him in the next newsletter. I hooked him up with James and Mary Jo. Lisa, did you have something to comment on?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have known this. Some people might know it, but Jerry Fagley passed away. So I just wanted to extend my condolences to Jerry Fagley. So
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know that at all. When did that happen? Recently?
it's been in the last month or so. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, well-known real estate agent in the community. If you run into his family, we can give our condolences. All right, folks, thanks. This was a killer. I don't like when the meetings go this long. I do believe that these bike lanes are really important. And I will make sure to continue to send out notices if you want me to add you to the list of questions that I send. Caesar, you haven't spoken up, but I want to thank you for being here. Caesar, you've gone above and beyond, and you've done some very heroic or things that are that show good character, in my opinion, and I'm grateful for you as our council member. And maybe we'll hear from you soon. Thank you all so much for sticking with us so late, and um, happy belated New Year, everybody, and try to avoid this cold and flu because it is a doozy.
Bye. Have a good night, everyone.